Queen Lyra did not scream when the blade kissed her throat. She stood frozen on the marble dais of the crystal court, crown heavy on her brow, the air buzzing with 1,000 alien nobles holding their breath. The assassin's shadow stretched long across the floor, sharp and wrong, cutting through the light of the twin suns. Lyra's heart hammered, but her face remained calm. That was what queens were taught. Fear was a private thing. Behind her, the court guards were already dead, slumped, silent, blue blood staining white stone. And somewhere in this chaos stood her husband. Evan, the human king consort of Vyrlia. Lyra's mind raced as the assassin leaned closer, his voice a hiss. "Your reign ends tonight, Star Queen." She thought of Evan then, not the blade. She always thought of him in moments like this, the quiet human who had walked into her life with soft eyes and clumsy smiles, the one the nobles mocked behind closed doors. She married a pet species, they whispered. A decorative male. A harmless human. Lyra had believed them once. She had chosen Evan for peace, not power. Humans were weak, fragile, short-lived. Everyone knew that. The Galactic Conquered listed them as a developing species, barely worth notice. Even Evan agreed with that assessment. He never bragged, never fought, never raised his voice. He cooked for her, listened to her doubts, held her when the weight of the crown became unbearable. That was why Lyra felt a sharp twist of regret now. She had brought him into this dangerous world. "Kill her," one of the nobles shouted from the shadows. "A traitor. End the human mistake with her." Lyra closed her eyes. Then she heard Evan sigh. It was a small sound, almost tired. "Lyra," he said softly, "I asked you to stay behind me." Her eyes snapped open. Evan was stepping forward. Unarmed. The assassin laughed. "The human wants to die first." Lyra's voice finally broke. "Evan, stop, please." He turned his head slightly, meeting her gaze. His expression wasn't afraid. It was apologetic. "I didn't want you to see this," he said. "See what?" The assassin lunged. What happened next shattered everything Lyra believed about the universe. Evan moved. Not fast. Instant. The air cracked like thunder. The assassin's blade never reached Lyra's skin. Evan's hand closed around the weapon, metal screaming as it bent inward like soft clay. The assassin froze, eyes wide with terror. Evan leaned closer, his voice calm, almost gentle. "You should have aimed better." Then he flicked his wrist. The assassin flew across the court, smashing through 3 crystal pillars before collapsing in a broken heap, dead before he hit the floor. Silence swallowed the hall. Lyra stared at Evan. At her husband. The human. He stood there breathing steadily, shoulders relaxed, as if he had merely swatted an insect. The nobles backed away in horror. Some fell to their knees, others fled. Lyra's legs felt weak. Her mind refused to catch up with what her eyes had seen. "Evan," she whispered, "what did you just do?" He turned to face her fully. For the first time since she had met him, his eyes were not soft. They were ancient, heavy, full of storms and scars. "I protected my wife," he said simply. The traitor noble tried to run. Evan didn't look at him. The floor beneath the noble collapsed, as if gravity itself had turned against him. He vanished into the depths below, screaming. Lyra gasped, stumbling back. Humans didn't do this. Humans couldn't do this. Evan approached her slowly, carefully, as if afraid she might break. "I wanted a quiet life," he said. "I wanted you, not the throne, not the wars." Lyra's voice shook. "What are you?" He knelt before her, head bowed. "A promise I tried to forget," he replied, "and a weapon I hoped would never wake again." The crystal court trembled. Alarms wailed across the palace. And Lyra realized, with a mix of awe and fear, that she had married something far more dangerous than any enemy outside her walls. She had married the true power of humanity. And it was finally awake. The palace did not sleep that night. Sirens echoed through the spires of Violia, and soldiers flooded the crystal court with weapons raised, eyes darting everywhere except toward Evan. No one wanted to be the first to challenge the human who had bent metal and gravity with a flick of his hand. Queen Lyra sat alone in her private chamber, hands clenched in her lap, breathing slowly as her tutors had taught her. Control the body, the mind will follow. It wasn't working. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the assassin flying through the air. She heard the crack of thunder that had come from Evan. Her Evan. The door chimed softly. "Come in," she said, though her voice barely sounded like her own. Evan entered without ceremony. No guards followed him, none dared. He stopped just inside the room, as if crossing the distance between them required permission. He looked smaller here out of the battlefield light, dressed in simple dark clothes. Human clothes. For a moment, Lyra almost believed she had imagined everything. Then she felt it again, the pressure in the air, like standing too close to a star. "You should be resting," Evan said. Lyra laughed once, sharp and humorless. "You shattered my understanding of reality, Evan. Sleep seems unlikely." He nodded, accepting that without argument. Silence stretched between them, thick and fragile. Finally, Lyra stood. She was taller than him, as most of her species were, but she had never felt physically dominant before. Not until now. "Tell me the truth," she said. "All of it." Evan's jaw tightened. He looked away, eyes tracing the glowing patterns on the walls. "I was hoping you wouldn't ask yet." "There is no yet," Lyra replied. "Not after tonight." He exhaled slowly. "All right." He moved to the window, gazing out at the city lights. On Earth, before we ever reached the stars, humanity learned something about itself. Lyra listened, every nerve sharp. "We adapt," Evan continued. "Not just culturally, biologically, mentally. When pushed hard enough, something answers." Lyra folded her arms. "You are saying humans evolve under stress?" "Yes, but not randomly," he glanced back at her. "Selectively." The room felt colder. "There was a war," Evan said. "A quiet one, long before humanity joined the Galactic Conquered, not with aliens, with ourselves." Lyra's chest tightened. "You were a soldier." He smiled faintly, something like that. Images flickered behind his eyes. She could see it. Loss, fire, choices that never healed. "We learned how to wake what sleeps inside us," Evan said. "Strength, speed, control over forces your science still calls impossible. Most humans can't survive it." Lyra whispered, "But you did." "I was built for it," he said simply. The words struck her harder than any confession. "Built? You hid this," she said. "You let them mock you, you let me believe." "That I was weak," Evan finished gently. "I know." Lyra's voice rose despite herself. "I married you thinking I was protecting you." Evan turned fully now, stepping closer. "You were protecting me." She stared at him, confused. "If anyone had known what I was," he said, "I would never have had a quiet moment, never had a choice. I wanted a life where my hands could build instead of destroy." His gaze softened. "I wanted you to love me, not the weapon." Lyra's anger faltered, replaced by something far more dangerous. "Understanding." "And now," she asked. Evan hesitated. That alone frightened her. "Now they know," he said. "Or they will soon. News travels fast when gravity bends." As if summoned by his words, Lyra's calm crystal lit up. One message after another. Noble houses demanding answers. Military commanders requesting orders. Foreign ambassadors suddenly very interested in human biology. And beneath it all, fear. Lyra straightened, crown gleaming in the low light. "I am the Queen of Violia," she said, "and you are my husband." She stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth of him. "No one will use you." Evan searched her face. "Even if it costs you." She met his gaze without flinching, especially then. For a heartbeat, the power in the room surged. Not violent, protective, like a storm held on a leash. Evan bowed his head. Then I will stand with you. The chamber doors suddenly slammed open. A guard captain rushed in pale. Your Majesty, the High Council has invoked the right of sovereign challenge. Lyra's eyes narrowed. On what grounds? The captain swallowed. They claim your marriage endangers the throne. Silence fell. Evan looked at Lyra. This is where it gets ugly. Lyra smiled, slow, cold, regal. Let them come, she said. Outside, the palace trembled again. And somewhere deep within Evan, something ancient stretched and waited. The halls of the Crystal Palace were alive with whispers that chilled the bones. Courtiers, nobles, and generals crowded the corridors, their faces pale and voices trembling. Every eye turned toward Queen Lyra, but not in reverence, this time in suspicion. The right of sovereign challenge had not been invoked in over a century. It was a trial by law, but everyone knew it was also a trial by fear. Lyra's hand rested on the hilt of her ceremonial dagger, not out of need but habit. She had faced conspiracies before, but this was different. The council demanded her human husband's presence. Evan walked beside her, calm as ever, his steps measured, as if the floor itself obeyed him. He carried no weapons, no aura of threat, yet the murmurs quieted as he passed. The same storm of power Lyra had witnessed in the crystal court hung around him like an invisible cloak. They reached the grand arena, a dome of translucent crystal that stretched high above the palace. Below, a circle of council elders waited, robed in deep violet and silver, faces carved with distrust. A dozen ceremonial weapons floated around them, suspended by invisible energy. The rite would decide if Lyra's marriage threatened Virelia's sovereignty. You may speak, Your Majesty, intoned the council leader, a tall figure with eyes that gleamed like molten metal. The challenge is simple. Prove your choice has not weakened our throne or face the consequences. Lyra's heart thudded in her chest, but she did not falter. And if my husband fails? She asked. The leader's smile was thin. He will not fail, but neither shall he succeed without demonstration. Evan inclined his head slightly. I understand, he said, voice soft yet resonant. He turned to her, and she felt that same storm in his eyes, the one that had shattered her world in the crystal court. Stay close, he whispered. Lyra nodded. The council snapped their fingers. The weapons dropped, swirling around the arena like a violent storm. Long blades, spiked maces, whips that gleamed with energy, dozens of tools of death moved as if alive, circling Evan with intent. He stood still, hands at his sides. The air thickened. Gravity seemed to shiver, and the weapons slowed as if hesitant. A noble shouted, He is just human, he cannot control them. Evan's gaze swept over the floating arsenal. Then he smiled faintly, not cruelly, not arrogantly, calmly. The weapons tilted toward him, drawn by a force he did not need to explain. Blades spun harmlessly in his aura, snapping and twisting as if they were ribbons, never touching him. The council's eyes widened, mouths opening and closing in disbelief. Lyra felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. This was the human she had chosen, not weak, not naive, not ornamental. Then Evan moved, not fast but precise. He lifted one hand and the weapons obeyed him, aligning in a perfect formation above the arena. Each weapon hummed with energy, but none could harm him or her. Do you see now? He said softly, looking at Lyra. I am here for you, not for conquest, not for war, but I will defend what I love always. The council leader staggered back. This is impossible, no human. Lyra stepped forward, her voice cutting through the murmurs. He is not just a human, he is my husband, and if anyone here thinks they can challenge our bond without consequence, they will answer to him. A weapon detached itself from the swarm, spinning toward the leader. Evan's hand flicked gently. It stopped midair, hovering inches from the elder's face. The room held its breath. Then slowly the weapons retreated, aligning themselves in a perfect, non-threatening circle around the arena. Evan turned to Lyra and extended his hand. She grasped it, feeling the immense calm and danger coiled in him like a living thing. The council whispered among themselves, fear and awe tangled in their tones. Finally, the leader bowed, trembling, defeated, and yet reverent. You have proven your claim, he stammered. The throne is secure. Lyra exhaled, finally allowing herself a small smile. The throne is secure, she echoed. Her eyes never left Evan, because he stands with me. Evan's smile was quiet, almost shy. I promised, he said. But before relief could settle, a rumble shook the arena. The crystal floor beneath them cracked, spiderwebbing like lightning frozen in glass. A shadow moved in the depths below, not human, not Virelian, something far older. Lyra's hand gripped Evan's tighter. What is that? She whispered. Evan's face darkened, something that should have stayed asleep. From the shadows, a voice hissed, echoing in every corner of the arena. Foolish queen, foolish human, you cannot hide from me any longer. The air grew cold, the crystal walls bending, twisting, almost alive. And for the first time since the rite began, neither Lyra nor Evan smiled. The challenge had only just begun. The crystal floor of the grand arena shivered like a living thing. From the fractured depths beneath, a figure began to emerge. Lyra gasped, her hand clutching Evan, feeling the pulse of his calm energy beneath her fingers. It was tall, too tall for a human. Its skin shimmered like obsidian, reflecting the twin suns in twisted patterns. Eyes burned like molten gold, piercing through every corner of the arena. Wings, long, skeletal, and jagged, unfurled from its back with a sound like breaking stone. Lyra Virelia, the shadow hissed, voice layered with ages and malice. You thought the Galactic Concord's politics were your only concern, foolish queen. You have awakened the line that should have remained buried. Lyra stepped forward instinctively, placing herself between the creature and Evan. Her fingers ached on her ceremonial dagger, but she knew it would not be enough. Not against this. Evan's grip tightened around her hand. Do not move, he said softly, almost as if the shadow could hear their conversation alone. Lyra swallowed. Evan, what is it? He took a breath, voice low and steady. This is one of the void wraiths, ancient, dangerous. It was sealed long before my species even left Earth. I thought it was gone. The wraith laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Gone? No, I was only resting, and now the human dares to reveal his strength. Lyra's chest tightened. You, she began, but Evan shook his head. Not me, he interrupted. We. The wraith's shadow stretched across the arena, cracking the crystal pillars as it moved. Soldiers and nobles screamed and ran for the exits, but the council's elders were frozen in terror. Lyra felt the pull of fear, the familiar weight of her crown pressing against her skull. But this time she did not falter. She saw Evan step forward, calm, unyielding. The wraith lunged. Time slowed. Evan moved almost lazily, yet every motion was absolute precision. He extended his hand, and the air thickened, forming a barrier that swallowed the wraith's strike before it even landed. Crystal pillars cracked and splintered, but Evan did not move. He didn't flinch. Evan, Lyra cried. I've got this, he said. His eyes glowed faintly, a strange blue light that spread from his chest outward, filling the arena. The wraith recoiled. Lyra watched in disbelief as he lifted both hands, drawing the creature toward him, not with force, but with command. The wraith struggled, its wings beating violently, but it could not break the invisible chains holding it. You cannot control me, human, it hissed, spitting shadows like venom. Evan's voice was calm, almost gentle. I am not controlling you, I am asking. The wraith froze, confusion flickering in its ancient gaze. Evan leaned slightly forward. Do you remember the promise you made? To remain sealed, you swore. A long silence stretched. The wraith's body quivered as though memories of eons tugged at it. Then it shrieked, a sound of rage and sorrow, and recoiled further, shrinking, retreating into the fractured depths of the arena. The shadows collapsed, the floor stopped trembling, the crystal pillars remained cracked but intact. Lyra's knees weakened. She fell to the floor, clutching Evan. You spoke to it. Evan knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. It listens to humans in ways it doesn't understand, and it remembers promises, just like I do. Lyra's mind spun. All this time, I thought he was fragile, I thought he was simple, I was wrong. She looked at him, truly looked, and for the first time she saw not only the human she loved, but the storm he carried. The power that slept for centuries, now awakened not for conquest, but for her. The grand arena was quiet, but the council and the nobles were shaken to their core. Whispers erupted, some bowed in respect, others shivered in fear. Lyra rose slowly, feeling Evan's strength supporting her. "This marriage," she said, voice ringing through the crystal dome, "is not weakness, it is strength, and anyone who dares to question it will answer not just to me, but to him." Evan nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "And I will always answer for you." Her heart caught, she stepped closer, their hands entwined. "You are my power," she whispered. "And you are my reason," he replied. For a moment, there was only the two of them, standing amidst shattered crystal and awestruck nobles. But as the echoes of the wraith scream faded, a new fear stirred. Somewhere beyond the palace walls, something else had been watching, patient, calculating, and it had recognized the human's true strength. Lyra shivered, gripping Evan's hand tighter. "We're not safe yet, are we?" Evan shook his head, eyes narrowing. "No, whoever is out there, they've been waiting for me to show my hand." A distant, cold laugh echoed through the corridors of the palace. And the game had only just begun. The night fell over Violia like a blanket of silver ash. The city lights shimmered, but the crystal palace remained tense, almost alive, its walls humming with residual energy from the wraith encounter. Queen Lyra paced in the private chambers, her crown set aside. Evan sat quietly, legs crossed, studying a star map projected from a small device on the table. "Something's coming," he said without looking up. "I can feel it." Lyra stopped packing. "Do you mean another wraith?" He shook his head. "Not exactly, something different, stronger, older, and it knows I'm here now." Lyra's hands clenched into fists. She had never felt fear like this, not even during palace coups. The air around Evan vibrated faintly, a warning and a promise wrapped together. "Then we prepare," she said. Her voice trembled, but only slightly. "We can't let them take Violia, not our people, not our future." Evan finally looked at her, eyes calm but unreadable. "Preparation isn't enough. This isn't about armies or weapons. This is about showing what we are." Lyra tilted her head. "We." He smiled faintly, almost sadly. You've seen me today. You've seen what humans are capable of when pushed to extremes. But it's not just me. Your bond with me, it's part of it too. Together, we're stronger than any threat." The words sent a shiver down her spine. She had always felt powerless in moments of danger, but now she realized something terrifying and exhilarating. She had never truly been powerless. Before she could respond, the palace alarm blared. Red lights bathed the corridors. Guards ran past, shouting. "They're here," a voice yelled. Evan rose to his full height, human yet somehow commanding the space around him. Lyra followed, hand in his. Outside, the palace grounds were alive with movement. Ships that had gone unnoticed under the twin suns now glinted ominously in the night. Figures, tall, armored, and alien, landed silently. They weren't soldiers of the conquered. These were hunters, merciless, ancient. The leader stepped forward, a figure taller than the tallest Violian, eyes black as the void. A staff of unknown material shimmered with energy, humming like it contained the heartbeat of a star. "Human," it hissed, voice like metal grinding against stone. "You flaunt your strength. You reveal yourself to a world that does not yet deserve your kind. Step aside or perish." Evan's hand brushed Lyra. "Stay close." Lyra swallowed. "I'm not leaving you." He nodded. "Good, then watch." With a soft exhale, Evan stepped forward. The ground beneath him seemed to pulse in response, as if recognizing him as a force of nature. The air thickened, gravity itself bent subtly. The alien leader raised its staff, energy crackling like lightning, ready to strike. Evan didn't move to dodge. He raised his hand, palm open. The energy hit him, met with a ripple of force so powerful it sent the attacker stumbling backward, staff sparking uncontrollably. Lyra's eyes widened. "Evan." The human didn't even flinch. Not a twitch, not a breath out of place. He moved forward, a predator calm before the storm. With a gesture, the staff was wrenched from the alien's grip, spun into the air, and returned to him, harmlessly but fully under his control. The hunters froze. Whispers of fear rippled through their ranks. Lyra felt her chest swell with awe. This is the man I married, not fragile, not weak, alive. The lead hunter growled and lunged. Evan didn't attack immediately. He allowed the creature to reach him, then with a single motion disarmed it entirely, sending it crashing into the palace wall. The alien scrambled to its feet, terror replacing anger. Lyra's voice rang out, steady and clear. You will leave this world or you will face him, and you will lose. The human's gaze met hers. Together, he said. And with that, Evan turned, walking into the night with Lyra by his side. The hunters hesitated, unsure if they faced a man or a storm that could consume worlds. The palace erupted in whispers, fear and awe mingling in every corner. Nobles and soldiers alike would never forget what they had seen. A human, unarmed, bending reality, defending not just a queen, but a love that made him untouchable. Lyra's hand squeezed his. What now? Evan smiled faintly, eyes scanning the horizon where more ships waited. Now, we make them understand why humans should never be underestimated. And as the twin moons of Virlia rose high, a storm was quietly brewing. Not of wind or fire, but of human power, awakened, unyielding, and fiercely protective. Somewhere in the shadows, a whisper traveled between alien hunters. The human, he is not alone, and he is nothing like we imagined. Lyra felt it too, the shift in the world around them. And in her heart, a fierce certainty burned. No matter what came next, she would face it with him. Because Evan wasn't just her husband. He was a force of nature. And together, they were unstoppable. The palace gates had never looked so small. From the balcony of the Crystal Tower, Lyra watched the alien hunters encircle the city. Their ships hovered, dark and silent, but the tension in the air was alive, electric. Soldiers scrambled below, unsure where to strike, unsure if anything could match the human who had destroyed the Wraith and humiliated the Council. Evan stood beside her, calm, silent. Lyra noticed the way his eyes scanned the horizon, the smallest movements betraying the depth of his focus. Humans rarely looked like that, so at peace, yet so deadly. They're testing us, he said softly, waiting to see how far I'll go before they strike. Lyra nodded, though her heart raced. Do you think we can stop them all? He glanced at her, and for the first time in the nights they had shared together, he smiled, a small, private smile that made her chest ache. We won't need to. Only a few will dare. The rest will hesitate. Before she could ask why, the ground beneath the palace quaked. Cracks spiderwebbed across the courtyard, sending soldiers stumbling. Lyra grabbed Evan's arm instinctively. From the shadows emerged creatures she had only ever heard of in whispered legends. Titans of darkness, their bodies massive and inhuman, each step cracking stone. They were not like the hunters, they were something older, hungrier. Lyra froze. Evan, they're everywhere. He turned to her, expression unreadable. And yet none can touch me while you are here. Before she could respond, the nearest Titan charged. Soldiers fired, energy blasts lighting the air, but the creatures barely flinched. Then Evan stepped forward. One hand lifted slightly. The Titan halted mid-stride. Lyra's jaw dropped. You're stopping it with your hand. Evan nodded. His eyes glowed faintly blue. Not just me, us, our bond. I feel what you feel, and it gives me strength they cannot match. The Titan roared, shaking the ground with a wave of sound. Evan's eyes narrowed. With a subtle motion, the creature was lifted from the ground, suspended like a puppet in the invisible strings of his will. Its roar became a cry of confusion, its rage impotent. Lyra's heart thundered. She had never realized love could be a weapon until now, not of destruction, but of pure, unstoppable force. A sudden shout broke her thoughts. From the shadows, one of the alien hunters, the leader, had approached, staff crackling with energy. Human, it bellowed. Do you dare defy us all? Evan didn't flinch. Instead, he turned to Lyra. Stay close. She nodded, clutching his hand. His power surged like a storm around them, bending light, gravity, even the air itself. The hunter's energy lashes whipped toward him, but they slowed, then froze as if the storm itself refused to obey their will. Evan moved, not fast, too fast for the eye to track. The hunter's staff was wrenched from its grip and spun harmlessly into the air. The hunter stumbled back, eyes wide with terror. Lyra's chest tightened as she realized the truth. No one, not even the oldest, most feared enemies, could match him. Evan looked at her, a mixture of pride and something tender in his gaze. "This isn't just about strength," he said. "It's about choice. I choose you, I choose Virelia, and I choose to protect this world even if it means standing against all of them." Lyra's hands trembled as she whispered, "I choose you too." He smiled faintly. Then the Titan roared again, thrashing violently. Evan raised both hands, and the force of his will bent the creature's massive body, folding it gently to the ground. The other Titans and hunters froze, awestruck, some fleeing into the night. The courtyard fell silent, save for the crackle of broken crystal and the distant hum of retreating ships. Soldiers and nobles stared at the human, their understanding shattered, their fear mingled with awe. Lyra stepped closer, her hand finding Evan, feeling the heartbeat beneath his calm exterior. You are more than I could have ever imagined," she said softly. He looked down at her, eyes warm now, no storm, no battle, just him. "And you are the reason I can be this. Without you, I am nothing." Her heart stuttered at his words. Love and power intertwined, creating something unstoppable. The palace gates had never felt safer, yet Lyra knew the threat was far from over. From the shadows beyond the city, eyes watched, waiting, calculating. But for now, they had survived, together. And in that moment, Lyra understood the truth of what she had married. A human, yes, but also a storm. And the storm was hers. The morning after the battle, the Crystal Palace was quiet, eerily so. The city of Virelia had survived the night, but whispers of the human's power spread like wildfire. News vessels from distant worlds carried tales of Evan, the unassuming husband who had bent reality itself to defend his queen. Lyra stood on the balcony, watching the sunrise over the spires. The twin suns bathed the city in gold and rose. For the first time in years, she felt a calm she hadn't thought possible. Evan was beside her, hands clasped behind his back, his eyes tracing the horizon with that familiar, steady focus. "Do you think they'll stop coming?" she asked. Evan shook his head. "No, but it doesn't matter. They can come. They can test us. But they will learn the same lesson. Humans and their bond with those they love are more powerful than any weapon or army." Lyra smiled faintly. "I never believed it at first. I thought you were ordinary." He turned toward her, soft humor in his expression. "Ordinary doesn't survive centuries of war, secrets, and promises. Ordinary doesn't bend gravity with a thought. Ordinary doesn't protect a queen the way I protect you." Her chest tightened. "You're not just my husband, you're everything I didn't know I needed." Evan's gaze softened, but his eyes still held that storm beneath the surface. "And you are my reason to stay human, to choose this life, to restrain what could destroy worlds and instead build one." The city below began to stir. Nobles, soldiers, and citizens alike emerged from the shadows of fear, murmuring about the human king consort. Some bowed, others averted their eyes, but all felt the weight of the power that had protected them. Lyra raised her hand, signaling calm. "Let them see," she said. "Not just fear, but hope. Strength is not only for war. Strength can protect, can elevate, can inspire." Evan stepped closer, taking her hand in both of his. The warmth of him grounded her even as the aura of power around him shimmered faintly, visible only to those who dared to look closely. "You've changed everything," Lyra whispered. "And you've chosen me," he replied. "That is what changed everything." The council arrived soon after, their robes tattered, faces pale. But their expressions were different, no longer suspicion, but awe. The leader bowed low. "Your Majesty, King Evan, the people will follow you both, and the conquered will remember this day." Lyra's eyes flicked to Evan. He nodded slightly, approving the gesture of mercy and authority. Together, they turned back to the city. "Humans are not weak," Lyra said, her voice steady, carrying across the rooftops. They are capable of greatness, of love, of strength beyond imagination, and I am proud to call one of them my husband." Evan's hand tightened around hers. "And I am proud to stand with my queen. Together we can face anything." The twin suns rose higher, gilding the palace with light. Shadows from the night's battles faded, replaced by a sense of renewal. Virelia had seen the full measure of human power and of love forged in the crucible of life and death. For the first time, Lyra realized that the fear she once felt for the unknown, the alien, the universe itself, was gone, replaced by awe, by trust, by unshakable bond. She leaned against Evan, feeling the quiet hum of his strength beside her, the pulse of humanity and their shared legacy flowing through the palace walls. "Do you think anyone will ever believe," she murmured, "how powerful you truly are?" Evan smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Some will, some won't, but it doesn't matter. The ones who matter, they already know." And as the people of Virelia looked to their queen and her human king, hope and courage bloomed in every heart. A queen and a human united not just by marriage, but by a power that defied expectation, shattered doubt, and reshaped the stars themselves. The galaxy would never forget them. And neither would Lyra, for she had married a human, and in doing so had discovered a force more magnificent than any crown could ever signify. The storm was theirs, and together they would rule, not just with authority, but with a love and power that would echo across generations.